The mahogany door swung open with its familiar creak, and Senator Victoria Chen stepped into the marble foyer of her Georgetown mansion, briefcase in hand. After 3 grueling weeks in Washington negotiating the healthcare reform bill, she wanted nothing more than a hot bath and her daughter's embrace. But the sight that greeted her made her freeze mid-step. There, in her pristine living room, her 8-year-old daughter Sophie was wrapped in the arms of Rosa Martinez, the housekeeper Victoria had hired just 2 months ago. Rosa was smoothing Sophie's hair, whispering something that made the child giggle through tears. Victoria's jaw tightened. The leather briefcase slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a thud. Both heads turned. Sophie's face lit up. "Mom, you're home." But Victoria wasn't looking at her daughter. Her eyes were locked on Rosa, who had immediately stepped back, hands clasped nervously in front of her uniform. "Sophie, go to your room," Victoria said, her voice cold and measured, the same tone she used in Senate hearings. "But Mom, I was just..." "Now." Sophie's smile evaporated. She cast a confused glance at Rosa before running up the curved staircase, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Victoria turned to Rosa, her expression carved from ice. "Ms. Martinez." "My office." Immediately. In the wood-paneled study, Victoria stood behind her desk like a prosecutor delivering a verdict. Rosa remained standing, hands trembling slightly at her sides. "I hired you to clean my home and prepare meals," Victoria began, her voice sharp as a blade. "I did not hire you to form inappropriate attachments to my child." Rosa's dark eyes widened. "Senator Chen, I would never." "I saw you." Victoria's hand sliced through the air. Hugging her. Whispering to her like you have some special bond. "Let me be absolutely clear, Ms. Martinez, you are staff. That is all. You maintain professional boundaries or you find employment elsewhere. Do you understand?" Rosa's face flushed, but she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, good. You're dismissed." As Rosa turned to leave, Victoria added one more thing. "And Ms. Martinez, from now on, you'll limit your interactions with Sophie to what's absolutely necessary. No more intimacy." The door clicked shut, leaving Victoria alone with her righteousness and a nagging feeling she couldn't quite name. Over the following days, Victoria noticed the change immediately. The house was quieter. Sophie spent more time in her room, less time in the kitchen where Rosa worked. The meals appeared on schedule, perfectly prepared but somehow lacking the warmth they'd had before. Victoria told herself this was proper. This was how things should be. On Thursday evening, she was reviewing policy briefs when her assistant called. "Senator, there's been a development with the healthcare vote. You need to fly back to Washington tonight." Victoria barely had time to tell Sophie goodbye before her driver whisked her to the airport. The vote stretched into a marathon session. One day became 3, then 5. Victoria was sleeping 4 hours a night on her office couch, surviving on coffee and ambition. On the 6th day, at 2 a.m., her phone rang. Sophie's private school headmaster. "Senator Chen, I'm calling about Sophie. She's been unwell. Nothing physical, but emotionally she seems quite distressed. She's refusing to eat properly, and today she broke down crying in class. We think you should know." Victoria's heart constricted. "I'll be there as soon as I can." She caught the first flight home, her mind racing through possibilities. Was Sophie being bullied? Was she sick? Why hadn't anyone told her sooner? She burst through the front door at noon, calling Sophie's name. The house was silent. Then she heard it, soft crying from the kitchen. Victoria rushed in and found Sophie sitting at the breakfast table, tears streaming down her face, with Rosa kneeling beside her, holding her hand. "Sophie." Victoria started forward, but something in the scene made her pause. Rosa was crying too. "I'm sorry," Rosa was saying quietly. "I'm so sorry, am I, Nina? I tried to keep my distance like your mother wanted. But I couldn't let you go through this alone. What's going on?" Victoria demanded, her earlier anger dissolving into confusion and fear. Sophie looked up, her face blotchy and tear-stained. "Mom, I didn't want to bother you. You were doing important work." "Bother me with what?" Sophie's small voice cracked. "I got a letter. From Dad. The world tilted. Victoria's ex-husband, Sophie's father, had abandoned them 3 years ago. Moved to California, started a new family, and severed all contact despite Victoria's attempts to maintain his relationship with their daughter. Sophie had been 7 years old when he left. He wrote to you? Victoria whispered. Sophie nodded miserably. He sent it to the school. He said he has a new daughter now and is going to focus on his real family. He said he's sorry but he doesn't have time for me anymore. The words hit Victoria like a physical blow. She dropped to her knees beside her daughter, pulling her into her arms. Oh, sweetheart. Oh, my darling girl. I tried to tell you when you came home last time, Sophie sobbed into her mother's shoulder. But you were so busy, and then you had to leave again, and Rosa found me crying in my room, and she said, Sophie's voice broke. She said that letter doesn't mean I'm not worth loving. She said her own father left when she was little too, and she knows how much it hurts, and that it wasn't my fault. Victoria looked up at Rosa, who was wiping her eyes with the corner of her apron. She's been sitting with me every night, Sophie continued. Reading me stories. Telling me about how her mom raised her and her brothers alone, and how they got through it. She said you loved me enough for 2 parents. She helped me write a letter to you, but I didn't send it because I knew you were doing important Senate stuff. The weight of it crashed over Victoria, her obsession with work, her rigid need for control, her inability to see what was happening in her own home because she was too busy maintaining appearances and boundaries. She had been so afraid of some imagined impropriety that she'd nearly driven away the one person who had been there when Sophie needed someone most. Victoria looked at Rosa, truly looked at her, perhaps for the first time. She saw not just a housekeeper, but a woman with her own story of pain and resilience, who had offered kindness to a heartbroken child when that child's own mother had been too distant to notice. Ms. Martinez, Victoria's voice was thick with emotion. Rosa, I owe you an apology. A profound one. Rosa shook her head. No, Senator. You were protecting your daughter. I understand. No. Victoria stood, still holding Sophie's hand. I wasn't protecting her. I was maintaining control. There's a difference. She took a shaky breath. You gave my daughter something I'd forgotten how to give, presence. Real presence. Not just physical proximity, but emotional availability. She paused, gathering her courage. I've spent 3 years telling myself that working harder, achieving more, proving myself in Washington would somehow make up for the fact that Sophie's father abandoned her. That if I could just be successful enough, important enough, it would fill the hole he left. Tears spilled down Victoria's cheeks. But what Sophie needed wasn't a senator. She needed a mom. And you. She looked at Rosa with genuine gratitude. You were here. You listened. You shared your own pain to ease hers. You did what I should have been doing. Rosa's eyes glistened. I only did what anyone with a heart would do. No. Victoria shook her head firmly. You did what someone with wisdom and compassion does. And I almost fired you for it because of my own pride and fear. She crouched down to meet Sophie's eyes. Baby, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you got that letter. I'm sorry I was too wrapped up in my work to see you were hurting. And I'm sorry I tried to keep Rosa away from you when she was exactly what you needed. Sophie threw her arms around her mother's neck. I just want you to be here sometimes, Mom. I know your job is important, but I need you too. I know. Victoria held her daughter tight. You're more important than any bill, any vote, any career achievement. I lost sight of that. I won't again. That evening, after Sophie had fallen asleep in her mother's arms during a movie they watched together, Victoria found Rosa preparing to leave for the day. Rosa, wait. Please. The housekeeper turned, uncertainty in her eyes. Victoria took a deep breath. I'd like to start over, if you're willing. Not as senator and staff, but as 2 women raising a child. Because that's what you've been doing, whether I acknowledged it or not. She extended her hand. I'm Victoria. Sophie's mom. Workaholic. Recovering control freak. Still learning how to balance career and family. Still learning that love sometimes comes from unexpected places. Rosa's face broke into a cautious smile. She took Victoria's hand. I'm Rosa. Mother of 3, grandmother of 1. Believer that every child deserves to feel cherished, no matter how busy life gets. Would you? Victoria hesitated. Would you consider joining us for dinner tomorrow? As a guest, not as staff. I think Sophie would love it. And honestly, I'd like to hear more about how you raised your children. I could use the wisdom. Rosa's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of joy. I would be honored, Victoria. 3 months later, Victoria stood at a press conference announcing her decision to step back from her Senate leadership position to spend more time with family, a phrase that had always seemed like political code for scandal, but which she now understood was simply an act of clarity about what mattered most. I've spent my career fighting for policies that support families, she told the cameras. It's time I lived those values in my own home. That evening, she came home to find Sophie and Rosa baking cookies in the kitchen, flour dusting the counters and laughter filling the air. Sophie ran to hug her, leaving flowery handprints on Victoria's suit jacket. For once, Victoria didn't care about the mess. She had learned that dignity wasn't about maintaining perfect boundaries and pristine appearances. It was about recognizing the inherent worth in every person, including the ones you employed, the ones you overlooked, the ones who saw your child's pain when you were too busy to notice. Real strength wasn't in pushing people away to maintain control. It was in the humility to admit when you were wrong and the courage to accept help from unexpected places. And love, true love, didn't respect job titles or social hierarchies. It simply showed up, day after day, in the quiet moments when someone chose to care. Victoria joined them at the counter, rolling up her sleeves. Rosa handed her a mixing spoon with a warm smile, and Sophie beamed with pure happiness. Welcome home, Mom, Sophie said. And for the first time in years, Victoria truly was.
Hello everyone. If you are enjoying this video and finding it helpful, don't forget to support our channel. Please subscribe to our channel, press the like button, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos. We regularly upload amazing, informative, and entertaining content just for you. Your support means a lot to us and motivates us to bring even better content in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and welcome to our growing community.